So, Fit for Life. So actually delighted to have everyone here this evening, whether you don't know what Fit for Life is, whether you're completely new, or whether you're a Fit for Life pro and it's been in your club and you've been involved for a very long time. Hopefully you can take something away from this evening's talk to help you improve your Fit for Life or even get started with it in your own club. Anyway, if anyone have any questions, pop them into the chat box and we can get to them throughout and even take a break halfway through if we need to answer any of your questions. So we'll start off with the aim of tonight's webinar. So the real aim here is to educate you guys on the Fit for Life program. So what is Fit for Life? What is it all about? Like what can it bring to you as both a coach personally, to your club, to your athletes and to the wider community. So the second thing then that we want to do is develop new Fit for Life leaders within all of our clubs. So there are two key things to take away from this evening. So next slide here. I'm just going to move this up here, sorry now. So what should you be able to do by the end of this evening's webinar? So what we want to do is describe what Fit for Life is and who is it for. So Fit for Life really, you know, it's not just for our clubs, it's for the wider community as well. We want to identify your role and your responsibility as a Fit for Life leader. So what exactly will you be doing as a leader in your Fit for Life program? Understanding the skills involved in coaching and what you want to be able to do for your members, your athletes, and anyone who comes to your sessions. Have the ability to plan the components and structure of a session. So this could be, you know, something quite different if you're already involved in coaching athletes. Coaching a Fit for Life session can be completely different because you're catering for a lot of different people, maybe people who've never ran or even done exercise before. They could be completely new. So we need to approach things with, I suppose, a new sense of purpose and a new vision as well. Be enabled then to adapt activities to the stage and needs of an individual. So that's kind of like what I was saying. You'll have a huge array of different individuals, all at different exercise and fitness levels. So we need to be able to cater and adapt our programs to those individuals. Then we want to develop your understanding of your own leadership and your organizational skills. So not only are we here to, I suppose, fulfill the Fit for Life program for the members, we also want to help you guys to become more confident in your skills and what you can provide. And then I suppose the main thing really is to give individuals positive, enjoyable and a relevant fitness experience. So that's the key thing with Fit for Life, is that it needs to be an enjoyable experience, because these people, a lot of them are new to running or to even exercise. So we want to make that as enjoyable and as accessible as possible. We'll pop on to the next slide. Perfect. So what is Fit for Life? So I suppose it's kind of broken up into three kind of main categories. So your first category here is it's a community of walkers, joggers, and runners. So sometimes when we think about like our clubs and our athletics clubs, we think of, you know, athletes at all different levels, and we think of, you know, high performance maybe or competition. But the main thing with Fit for Life is it's community based, and it's what we want to approach is, you know, including everyone, making sure that it's not just for competition, it's not just for elites, that it's for everyone and the whole community. The second aspect of your Fit for Life is you guys, so having qualified coaches and trainers. So you guys, I suppose, will be the face that people know when they come to their Fit for Life session, and the friendly face that they want to see, and the person that gives them the knowledge and helps them on their journey, wherever they are in their journey, whether they're complete beginners or they're someone who wants to maybe get more into the club aspect or club competition. And then the last aspect then will be having a safe, social and inclusive environment around your Fit for Life group. So that's the key thing, that people are coming and that they feel included in something and they feel part of something, because that's what they're looking for at the end of the day. So a little bit more about our Fit for Life in AAI and across our country. So it's nationally coordinated, and at the moment we have 130 clubs across the country who have Fit for Life groups. So not every club has Fit for Life groups. Maybe your club doesn't. So maybe this evening could be a potential way for you to start up your Fit for Life group and get that sense of, I suppose, community involved into your club if that's what you're looking for. The second thing about your Fit for Life is it creates a sense of belonging. So many clubs have introduced a program to strengthen relationships within the local and wider community. So sometimes it can be kind of difficult for clubs to reach out to the community and try and get, I suppose, more involvement in your athletics club to boost your membership. So Fit for Life programs can be an excellent way to do this, to reach out to the community and get a community going and involved in your club. And the last thing then is it really does support your club development and sustainability of your club. So Fit for Life is an excellent way for you to build relationships within the community, you know, to get more people in, to get more volunteers helping out, and overall just to strengthen your club. And you never know who can come in through a Fit for Life program. It could be, you know, a top athlete at the end of the day that may have never gone into athletics otherwise. So a lot can come out of Fit for Life groups, and it can give people a lot of purpose and give the community a sense of belonging as well. So I guess a lot of you are here and wondering, well, what can Fit for Life bring to my club? And, you know, why should we get involved, and why should we try and set up a Fit for Life group within our club? So first of all, you know, you'll be given tailored training programs and sessions. So once you go through your Fit for Life training, like, we'll provide you with all the resources, and that makes it a little bit easier for you. But I suppose one thing that you want to do is put your own stamp on things as well, and your own individuality on things. The second thing is education and understanding of training. So like, a lot of us may be coaching at different levels. So at least with your Fit for Life group, it gives you that understanding of, you know, fitness training, whether that be a complete beginner, whether it's someone who's, you know, a seasoned runner and looking to get into competition. It kind of covers a wide range of training. It gives you increased social interaction within the club and community. You get to work with people towards their own personal goals and help them achieve what they want to achieve out of the sport or out of fitness. There's definitely numerous health benefits. You know, there's been amazing stories from all of our Fit for Life groups of people who maybe have never exercised before and now are completing marathons and doing amazing things. And it's not just about completing marathons, but just being healthy and feeling good about yourself, and that's the key. And the last thing then is it's protected by AI insurance. So once you have your Fit for Life club, all your members will be protected by the insurance offered by Athletics Ireland. So lots of benefits and lots to consider there. So when we're, I suppose, considering a Fit for Life leader and coach, well, what should a leader be, or what is becoming a leader? A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So I suppose to take away from that quote, like, what is the takeaway message from that? It's that we want to be the leaders in our Fit for Life programs, and that when people come to our program, they feel, you know, at ease, they feel guided, and they feel, yes, I'm coming, I've got a knowledgeable leader here that's going to show me how to get into fitness, how to get into running, maybe become more involved, and maybe become competitive. So I guess you're the one person that they're going to go to looking for all that knowledge, and that's what we want to help you guys to become, is a leader. So I just want you all to take a moment and consider this. Why do I want to become a leader? So I want to pose that question to everyone here. Why do you want to become a leader? And if you've got any, I suppose, ideas about why you want to become a leader, I want you to just type it into the chat box, and we can have a little look, see what everyone thinks. So I'll just give you about a minute or so. Or maybe if Lilly-Ann or Emmett can highlight a few of those messages that are coming in.
Will do, Grace. We have a few shy people at the moment. Oh, we are getting them in. So the first one is to share what I have learned. We have another one that is a challenge to do so, to get more involved. To give back to the club who introduced me first to Fit for Life, which I think is a lovely idea.
Brilliant.
Utilise the coaching qualification to promote athletics I've lost a lot of weight with exercise and want to help the others do the same. Another one is to motivate others to get involved with running and walking. And another person has said, my club is a new facility within the club and we want to make an impact in the community to support Fit for Youth. And it's great to see people achieving things they would not have done otherwise. So there's lots of interest there. You know, it's all about kind of sustainability. You can see that people just want to help, not just for themselves, but to help, like you said, the wider community, the health, their physical health, their mental health, and most of all, their social health. And it's just kind of getting even to strengthen the club and getting more members involved from youth to seniors. And it's lovely that people who have gone on the Fit for Life journey already want to start contributing to the programme in a different way. And there's a lot of people who said they just want to share their passion and show people that running isn't just for the elite.
And like, I think that's like so fantastic as well. It's like all of those answers there, that's really unique to you as a person and you as a coach and you as a leader. So while all of us are going to become leaders and we're all kind of going to, I suppose, learn the same things and learn the same education, we all have unique stories and unique pathways in how we got to running or how we got to become that you can pass over to your Fit for Life group members and something that they can learn from as well. So having your unique, I suppose, standpoint and your unique pathway is a nice thing to pass through as well, and makes your Fit for Life group a little bit more interesting and a little bit more unique as well. So thank you all for all of those excellent answers. So we'll just pop on to the next slide. There we go. So another aspect is support. So Fit for Life really is an excellent platform to help support people who maybe never would approach an LS club otherwise. So it's support to one another to share the enjoyment of running and walking, to help people fulfill their potential, whatever that potential may be, whether that's, you know, completing their first 500-meter run, or whether that's completing their first mile, their first 5K, or their first marathon, whatever their potential or their personal ambitions may be, to help them fulfill that. To meet new people, it's a great way for people, you know, maybe there's new people in your community and they're shy and they don't know how to meet people, and especially now with coronavirus, there's not many outlets for the usual outlets for people to meet are kind of gone, but athletics and exercise outdoors has become huge in the past few months, as we know. So it's an excellent way to meet people and keep us all connected on that level. To help relatives or people that they know, to encourage people into athletics, and of course to increase club membership. It's a really, really good way, and I guess a bit of an easier way for you guys to help increase your club membership. So then what do strong leaders, you know, what, I suppose, characteristics do they have? So if you're a leader, what I suppose we want to kind of help people see is that you have care for them. So you're not there just to facilitate the Fit for Life session on a Tuesday night for the hour and then everyone goes home. That you do care about people's health, their wellness, both mentally and physically, and their ambitions and goals. To encourage enjoyable experiences. So Fit for Life, again, it's all about enjoying the experience of getting into running, getting into fitness, and making sure that people aren't, I suppose, intimidated. And then promote social and personal development. So you can take so much away from joining a group such as Fit for Life, not only on, you know, a physical level from the benefits of exercise, but also socially and mentally as well. It's a brilliant outlet. And then looking at leader requirements. So when we're looking at like you as a leader, what you kind of, I suppose, need to look at it within yourself is how you treat each individual. So making sure that when you have your Fit for Life group, you don't have your plan and you're sticking that plan on every single person in the group and you're expecting that to work. We need to look at the group more individualized. Now we can all work together as a whole group, but then we need to break it down and make sure that we are treating every person as an individual and that we're catering to those needs, because Fit for Life is going to be a wide array of people coming from lots of different backgrounds, lots of different exercise backgrounds as well. So we just need to cater for all of those individuals. And that will provide variety as well within your sessions, and it will make it it'll bring enjoyment and a fun element to it as well. So a lot of us maybe have been used to coaching within our clubs, and a lot of coaching within our clubs can be directed towards competition, and pressure can come with that, and that can take away the fun enjoyment. So we need to remember that, you know, a lot of these people just want to be there for the social element and not competition. We want to be supportive and encouraging to every person within the group, and you want to praise their efforts more than results. So even showing up to a session can be a huge deal for some people. So make sure that you praise them for actually attending the session, and that will keep attendance high as well, and adherence as well. You want to be fair and have patience, and then recognizing, you know, everything that they do as well. You know, as I said, turning up to the session could be a huge deal for someone else, not even mind completing a session. So turning up can be something big for someone else. And then cater again for the developmental stage and the skill of each individual. There's barriers, like why do some people stay away from athletics clubs, or what's putting them off joining a club? Well, it could be maybe they have got a lack of knowledge and information. Maybe they're just not sure about what's involved or what it entails. Maybe they've got a lack of time, or they've other priorities or commitments, and they don't perceive exercise and health as something high in their priority list. That maybe, you know, they have a lack of an exercise partner or a support group. So that's where Fit for Life can be huge for, you know, people who find it really difficult to get out the door and exercise because they don't have a group. Well, Fit for Life is their key and is the answer to that question. Some people think, you know, oh, I'm not the sporty type and I couldn't join an athletics club. Well, then offering Fit for Life can be something that can be completely approachable for them. Some people might find, you know, that they have financial constraints and they don't want to pay up big memberships to gyms or anything like that. So again, coming back to your Fit for Life, they might have fear of injury, might be embarrassed, or they might feel, you know, oh, like I'm overdoing it, or fear of the athletics club is a big thing. So fear of the elite, because a lot of people who've never been involved in athletics before and never joined a club, what they see is they see RTE on Sunday night and they see all the elites at the national championships and they think, God, I could never be part of that. I'd never be good enough. But maybe they don't realize that Fit for Life exists and that they definitely could be. And athletics is probably one of the biggest sports that is so inclusive of everyone, and that's the lovely thing about it. So what we want to do is remove these barriers, and how can we do that? So through recruitment. So we're going to help you understand how to engage new members, how to create that environment that everyone feels included in. And then we're going to show you as well how to be more visible. So getting your Fit for Life group, you know, out into the community and making sure that everyone knows about it and what's involved. We're also going to help you to understand how to approach running and coaching. So how to help these people start, what are the skills and knowledge that you need to be aware of as a leader, and how do you coordinate the group to the different fitness levels, so catering for all those different fitness levels and making sure that it's inclusive and fun. And then the last aspect then will be retaining all these members, because sometimes, especially with people who started out running, it can be hard for them to keep motivation and keep training at that level. So we want to help you guys understand how you can retain the people who have joined up with your Fit for Life group, you know, how to challenge the group, how they can progress, and how can you add different elements to the program and make it progress as well. So not just starting it up, but helping you progress your Fit for Life within your group. So that is my aspect done, and we're going to pass over to Emmett now. And just out of my sharing. And I'll pass you over to Emmett, and he is going to take over all the coaching aspects. So a lot of good information coming your way.
get my screen sharing here. Now, can everybody see that screen?
Yep, I can anyway.
Just expand it. There we go. Right. Good evening, folks. So thanks to Grace and Lilly-Ann for the introductions and the first part of the presentation. So I'm going to go through, I suppose, the aspects of the overall coaching plan for a Fit4Life group and, you know, the nuts and bolts of some of the sessions as well. So I suppose two things to get across, you know, and two assumptions I suppose I'm making that most people who are working with Fit4Life groups is, first of all, is that most of the athletes you're working with are probably starting from either from scratch and have very little or no running background. So they will be effectively on a couch to 5K type program in the early weeks. So for your first 6, 8, or maybe even 10 weeks, it's going to be, you know, really bringing people from 0 up to being able to run to 5K. And then I suppose the more advanced version of that then would be when the group has completed their 5K, they want to stay within the club, they want to stay within the Fit4Life group, that they're going to try and move on to 5K or improve the 5K or move on towards 10K and maybe beyond at some point after that. So they're, I suppose, the two groups that I'll be aiming most of the training information at. So it's a couch to 5K and then a more advanced 5K to 10K program. And before we even move on to the details of what the sessions should look like, it's worth keeping in mind that for all, you know, as a leader or as a coach, there's two things that you need to always have the forefront of your mind, is that the training needs to be sustainable. And it's up to you to be given the appropriate training load for each athlete or each group that you're working with, that you're not giving them too much, and likewise that you're not giving them too little. So the training is sustainable over time, and likewise that from the athlete's point of view, that you're encouraging them to be consistent over time, because if they're to get the most out of any training program, Fit4Life plan, they need to be consistent, you know, week in, week out. So I think in terms of getting that message across, that they need to be consistent, and you, as the leader, need to make the training sustainable. And that's where a little bit of pre-planning comes into play, and that you're making an appropriate training plan for the group that you're actually working with. So there are many aspects to coaching, and a lot of these probably are not necessarily applicable at the start for most, certainly not for most couch to 5K groups or Fit4Life groups, but they do become more relevant as the athletes stay on and as they progress over years in time. So I suppose in terms of, first of all, you're looking at the physical aspects and the psychological aspects. The psychology of it is interesting for people who haven't run before, because approaching a running club or a Fit4Life group, there is that barrier there that there's perceived that the local athletics club is only for the fast people, and that it's very much an elite institution, where it's obviously not, and the whole idea of Fit4Life is to break down that element. But you will find that as athletes come along and runners come along to join your group, there is a psychology element that you need to get across to them, that this is for everybody and it's not just for the elites. Then I suppose you've got the skill of running, which again, if you've got athletes who've never run before or have done very little sport, the actual skill of running and the coordination of running can be trying to improve that through not just through running but also through drills, but that in a second. Then you're trying to improve those athletes' endurance, their speed. Speed can often be, you know, it's the easiest element to add in for distance runners. And very often what you find with Fit4Life groups, many of the athletes you're dealing with will have come from, while some of them have no sport background, you'll find a lot of athletes will have come from team sports as well. The speed side of things is very much the easiest part to add in. So again, it's developed over time. And the last parts there are your strength, your coordination, and your flexibility. And again, a lot of that can be done within a given Fit4Life session, a training session with the club, is that you're working with, you're working on the strength element, you're working on the coordination and the flexibility within one session.
Is it going to help you?
Have we got somebody on there? So I'm going to move on to, the frequency, the intensity, the time and duration. So I suppose this is where the specific sessions are coming in.
Hi guys, just a reminder, can we have all microphones and off please? There's just a bit of noise coming in there. Sorry Emmett, I think I have it sorted now.
Okay, I'm just trying to mute all here, but I can't see the button.
Yeah, I got it there now.
And there we go, perfect. Right, so what I was just saying is just in terms of, I suppose, again, given the appropriate training load and training volume for each group that you're working with, and that is down to the frequency of the sessions. How often do you train? If you're starting with a group of beginner athletes, 2 to 3 times a week is an appropriate frequency for that group. The intensity for a group like that needs to be low. It's a lot of the time the message that you're trying to get across for new athletes is that the runs need to be done at a conversational pace, that it is not necessarily going as fast as you can or as hard as you can during the workouts, that it needs to be at a sustainable pace within the session. And then again, the time and duration of the workouts is appropriate to the group that you're working with. So again, the Couch to 5K groups, I would normally aim for about a 20 to 25 minute session of running. You'll have your warm-ups and your cool down either side of that. As the groups move on to sort of 5K, 10K and beyond, that 20 to 25 minutes of a session can move out to 30, 40 minutes, depending on the actual fitness levels of the group themselves. So to move on, I suppose, if we look at, let's move on to the next slide here. So what are we looking for with any training session or with any training plan? This, I suppose, graphic depicts it quite well in that you've got a base level of fitness for anybody, okay? You give a training session, let's say on a Tuesday night at the club, your base level of fitness effectively drops. You're tired, you're fatigued after the workout. And then you need to allow an appropriate period of recovery, which, if you allow enough recovery, it leads to what's known as supercompensation. You get a benefit basically from the training stimulus that you received, and then that leads you on to the next training session. I suppose where this becomes important is that for Fit4Life groups in particular, is that you have 2 to 3 sessions during the week, but that you're allowing an appropriate amount of recovery in between those workouts. So if you're meeting 3 times a week, obviously maybe a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is a nice way to space those sessions out during the week, that you're leaving one clear day of recovery in between the workouts. And you're encouraging not just that your own training sessions, but that you're encouraging the groups you're working with that they don't try and cram all of the training in at the end of the week if they've missed a session earlier in the week, that you don't have somebody who's training 3 times a week, but those 3 sessions are on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. It's not allowing enough recovery in between the sessions, and it's ultimately going to lead to injury. They're not going to benefit from the training, and they're not going to receive that super compensation effect and allow them to progress. Likewise, you don't want to leave too much of a gap in between the sessions. So this is where the consistency becomes important, is that you're getting the group together every week and you're instilling that idea that they need to be getting out 2 or 3 times a week, every single week, back to back. Because ultimately, regardless what level the athlete is at, if consistency over time is what's going to make them improve and realize their potential. So that again, that they're not just coming to training on a Tuesday and not doing anything for the rest of the week, reappearing next Tuesday and wondering then why they're not making progress over time. Okay, so it's trying to get that idea across, that you need enough recovery in between the sessions, and that you need that you're not taking too much time off in between sessions as well. So in terms of, when you get a Fit4Life group together at the beginning, it's a case of, I suppose, knowing your audience and doing your health checks. Really, it's a case of chatting with them, seeing what level most of the group are at, and then providing an appropriate training plan. I suppose where that becomes important is in the first week or two, is if you've got a group that are particularly unfit, have no running experience whatsoever, then maybe starting with something like 30 seconds of running, 90 seconds of walking will be a specific and appropriate training session for a group like that. If you find that after you've chatted to them, maybe quite a few of them have done a little bit more running, that they could start off with maybe 1 or 2 minute repeats and maybe shorter periods of recovery in between. But it's important to have that conversation beforehand. You know what level that they're currently at and what level of training you need to provide to them in order for them to get a benefit from the session. Again, it needs to be, I suppose, challenging from a fitness point of view, that they feel like they're being challenged on a weekly basis as well. The training is not necessarily too easy, but you've got to be always mindful to be on the conservative side and make sure that the training session is not too hard. I suppose the principles of training that you're looking at here is that it's specific to the group that you're working with. It's also got to be progressive over time. And what I would always do with a group is try and make each session or each week a little bit more difficult than the previous one. And in order to do that, the best way for most groups and coaches and Fit4Life leaders is to sit down before the program starts and actually write out your 6-week program or your 8-week program, whatever it might be, so that you can, without turning up to training and trying to make up the session on the spot each night, that everything is written down in advance and you can see a clear progression, that you move from 30-second or 1-minute intervals in week 1, that move on to 2-minute intervals in week 2, and that it gradually moves on to 10 and 15-minute intervals, and ultimately that at the end of the 6 or 8 week period, that those athletes are able to run 5K without stopping. But that there's a gradual progression over time. Okay, so that it's specific, it's progressive, that there's an appropriate amount of overload, that you give them enough of a stimulus that they're tired each week, but that they're not breaking down. And obviously, again, if they're not turning up or not doing the training every week, that they, getting across the idea that training and fitness is reversible. It goes backwards very quickly. I think any of us that have done any amount of training over the years will realize that you lose it an awful lot quicker than you can gain it. And again, just what we spoke about earlier, is that the recovery in between the sessions, that they need to be, they're leaving a clear day in between workouts. So for the actual session itself, like I said, I think it's a good idea that all of the sessions over your full Fit4Life program are written down in advance, that the coaches and the leaders know exactly where they're trying to get to over the course of those 6 or 8 weeks. But in the terms of the actual individual session itself, I suppose there will be three parts to it. Your initial part is your warm-up and your drills and your activation exercises. What I've done with groups like this over the years is I tend to get them to do a very short walk or jog at the beginning for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, again, if these are a beginner group, then that's a 5 to 10 minute brisk walk. If they're a little bit more advanced, then it's a 5 to 10 minute jog. So whatever is the appropriate group. Then you're looking at some drills. There's, if you go onto YouTube, there's any amount of different types of drills that you can do and that you can add into the session. What I would normally do is pick 3 or 4 drills, do them twice each time, and then work on that set of drills for maybe 2-3 weeks until you feel that they're proficient at it. Now, the drills can be something very simple, like single leg hops. They can be double leg hops, just very gentle movements that are not too challenging for if it's a beginner's group, but that they can gradually increase over time. And I suppose what you're looking at here is, in terms of the progression, may move on to something like A skips or high skips after a couple of weeks. If you're looking for examples of that, if you go to the Athletics Ireland YouTube channel, there should be a lot of examples there in terms of drills and how they can progress over time. So it's worth having a look at that. The other thing that I would normally add into a session as part of the warm-up is I get a group to have use mini bands or resistance bands. So there's just small little bands that you just pop around the ankle or pop around the knees, and just doing crab walks, side walks. Again, you'll get examples of these on YouTube. If you just pop in crab walks or mini bands or resistance bands, you'll see a whole array of different exercises that you can do. But it does 2 things, I suppose. First of all, it gives you a little bit of activation for the glutes and the legs before the workout, and it also adds a little bit of a strength element in there, because again, if you're dealing with people who have not much experience of exercise before, they need to do a little bit of strength work in addition to doing the fitness work. And those little mini band exercises are great. They only take maybe 3 to 5 minutes at the start of a session, and they're a good way of making the warm up a little bit more interesting, and they also add a little bit of something that the athletes will need and desire over time, is that they need that little bit of strength work. Then you're moving on to the actual session itself, which we'll talk about in a second. And the final part is obviously your cool down and your stretching. So again, what I would normally do with a group like this is that we'd do 5 to 10 minutes of either easy jogging or brisk walking, again, depending on what level that they're at, and go through a series of stretches where you're holding the stretches for sort of 5 to 10 seconds. You don't need to be holding them for a particularly long period of time. You're just trying to get a little bit of mobility and range of motion back into the muscles after the workout. And again, you go on YouTube or you go onto the Athletics Ireland page, you'll find a whole different series of sample stretches that you can do there. I suppose really what you're looking for is to get all the main muscle groups in that. You're getting the glutes, hamstrings, quads, calves and Achilles, and they are, I suppose, the most specific ones, most specific stretches for most endurance athletes. In particular, calf and Achilles tend to be injuries that new athletes pick up quite a bit, that you're focusing on doing a little bit of stretching. And maybe even if you find that there was athletes in your group who are picking up injuries, calf and Achilles related, that it might even be worth doing a couple of small strength exercises in the warm down as well afterwards. But again, that depends on whether that's an issue within the group. So the actual session itself, as you can see there, you've got 3 main parts. You've got your warm-up, which is your dynamic stretching, your drills and your strides, which we've talked about, the main body of the session, which we'll look at in a second, and then the cool down, which is your gentle jogging or walking, depending on what's appropriate, and your static stretches. Always keep the static stretching to the end of the session. Okay, sometimes I suppose we would have been Historically, a lot of static stretching would have been done in sessions at the beginning. I would always leave that to the end. You want to do that stretching when your muscles are at their warmest, when they're, you know, they've had loads of blood flow after the session. That static stretching to the last thing you do pretty much before you leave. And like I said, you only need to be holding those stretches for 5 to 10 seconds. You don't need to be holding them for, you know, 30 seconds or a minute, unless there's specific issues with injuries or whatever. 5 to 10 seconds is more than enough on those. So the aim and the warm-up and the aim and the cool down, I think we've covered most of that. We'll move on to the actual main part of the session itself. So as I was saying, for a new group, all of these array of options here are pretty much, they're not necessarily appropriate for a couch to 5K group. We'll have a look in a second of what a couch to 5K program might look like over the space of 6 or 8 weeks. But when they've moved on beyond that, they've got a couple of weeks and a couple of months of training under the belt. These are various different options that you can use for adding into the training session. I would always try and make the training session slightly different every week, because it provides two things. It avoids the comparison to last week and the week before and the week before, and that the athletes are constantly benchmarking themselves versus what they've done in a previous week of training. Every time you turn up to training, there's different factors involved. It's not just your fitness, it's what you've been doing at work that day. You might have a little bit of stress at home, you might have slept that well that night. And every time you go to the track to do a workout, it's not necessarily going to be the best session you've ever done. So by changing the session every week, you avoid that comparison. And I think that's important for athletes, that we don't, and coaches as well, that we're not lazy putting on the same sessions each week, that you sat down and out workouts over a couple of weeks, and that you're constantly changing it. And the other thing it does is it provides a different stimulus every week for the athlete. So it challenges their fitness in a different way. So it's not like we're going down to do, 4x K or a 20-minute tempo run every single week. You will get a progression from doing any session after, once you repeat it 2 or 3 times, you've kind of got the benefit from that workout. You need to change the stimulus, and that is the same for elite athletes as it is for new athletes, that you're constantly changing the session, changing the stimulus, and allowing their fitness to develop in different ways. So if we were to go through these sessions here, fartlek sessions are alternating tempos. I suppose the traditional fartlek session for many of us would be breaking a 20 or 30-minute run down into 1 or 2 minute intervals. It can be broken up any way you want and any way you see specific for the athlete. As I said earlier, I think 20 minutes duration is more than enough for a beginner group. As they get a little bit more advanced, you might want to bring that session on to 30 minutes. The fartlek elements, like I said, it can be done in time. So it could be something like 1 minute hard, 1 minute easy, 2 minutes hard, 1 minute easy. Or you could use the track that you're on. So you might, if your club is lucky enough to have a track, then it might be maybe 200 meters hard, 100 meters easy. Or if you're out on the road, which many groups will be, especially during the winter months when they don't have options of getting into parks that are not well lit. That you might go maybe 2 lampposts or 3 lampposts hard, and then maybe 1 or 2 lampposts easy. So depending on, you're just picking targets in the distance and using those to add fast periods and slow periods into the run. Likewise, an alternating tempo is effectively the same. It's a continuous run for 20 to 30 minutes. It might be something like 3 minutes hard and then 2 minutes at an easy jog pace. Or you can split that up depending on what's appropriate for the group. If it's a beginner's group, it might be a case of doing 1 minute hard, 3 minutes easy jogging, or 3 minutes walking, depending on what that might be. I suppose the second element here is that if you've got the option that you can change the terrain, so cross country is what we've got written in here, I suppose, is that you can get athletes off the road and off the track and get them onto grass and rolling hills as much as possible. It's a great way of providing a new stimulus, but just getting onto a different surface. Obviously, with cross country, you're having to, you're working the muscles in a different way, and you're also, I suppose, you're being challenged in different ways, and that the ground is that little bit uneven. You're being met with hills, and you don't get that same return off the grass in terms of energy as you would when you're on the road or the track. So it's a good way of providing an endurance element to the sessions as well. But I suppose overall, what you're looking for here is that you want to change the surface that they're training on a fairly regular basis, if that's possible for the group. Next thing you can look at here are powerlifts or relays. So it might be a case of, again, if you're on a track, an example of this would be that you break the athletes into groups of 2, and that one person will run 200 meters hard, the next athlete might do 400 meters hard, come back around again and hand over, and it's a relay over and back, or it might be groups of 3, or it might be groups of 4. Again, you can slice and dice this many different ways, but it's a way of providing a different stimulus, and it can also add a sort of a team element into the training session. For those of you that are on maybe that have access to football pitches, diagonals are a great way, or figure of eights, some people call them, they're a great way of adding in, again, a little bit of speed work into the sessions. So the traditional diagonal session would be a case of running along the back on the end line from one, let's say, corner flag to the other corner flag, and then go diagonally across the pitch at speed, so at a fast but controlled pace. And then your recovery is at the other end of the pitch, is going from one corner flag to the other, and you're doing that figure of eight or diagonals for, again, depending on what the duration of time is that you're looking for, 20 minutes, 30 minutes in total. Out and back runs, again, depending on where you are, and particularly during the winter, I think this is probably what a lot of clubs are confined with, in that they've got a short road loop that they need to work with, so it's a case of just going out and back. I would say when you're confined to something like that, that you're trying to encourage the athletes to make the return leg quicker than on the way out, and that you're encouraging them to start slow, pick it up as they go along, and finish strong, as opposed to the opposite way around, where they start out a little bit quicker and come back a little bit slower. So it's a case of looking for negative splits on something like that, that the first half is easy, second half is a little bit hard. Again, where possible, when the group is a little bit more advanced, I would try and add in hills as much as possible. So a couple of ways you can do this. You can do your traditional hill sessions, which might be something like 8 by 1 minute hills or 12 by 1 minute hills, where you're just doing nice and hard effort up the hill for 1 minute, and then an easy jog back recovery. If you're doing sessions like that, I would always encourage the athletes to try and finish the session. So let's say it's 10 by a minute off a jog back recovery. Try and encourage them to finish the session as if they had to do 12 or 13 reps that they'd be able to do. So they're going hard, but there's always that little bit in the tank at the end if they absolutely need to use it, that you're not trying to get them to go to the well in training every time that they turn up, so that there's a 10 to 15% left behind if they need it. It prevents the athletes, I suppose, overextending themselves in training every single week, and it tries to get across that they need to stay controlled in training, because ultimately on race day, or when you're doing your 5K or 10K, you need to keep that element in control in there as well. The other thing that you can do in terms of hills is do short hill sprints. So these are 8 to 12 seconds in duration, and the recoveries between these are quite long. So you're looking to try and take 90 seconds to 2 minute recoveries in between. Sessions like this will work on a number of different things. They're alactic, first of all, because the duration is so short, is that you don't produce any lactate or lactic acid. So it's effectively some free speed work. So there's not a huge amount of muscle damage done, and the athletes are not particularly taxed by the session like this. So that's one thing I would encourage when you're doing these hill sprints, is that you make sure that the recovery in between is long. And sometimes as distance runners, we can be a little bit guilty of trying to turn everything into an aerobic session. We don't like walking and taking long recoveries in between reps, but in the case of doing hill sprints like this, it's an important thing to let your system fully recover in between those hill sprints. And I would usually aim for between 4 and 8 of those hill sprints, no more. So they're a nice thing to tag on at the end of the session. So you might do your 20 minutes of, let's say, fart leg, which is minute on, minute off. And then if you've got a hill close by, what you could do is add on 4 by 10 second hill sprints at the end. They're a nice way of providing a little bit of speed work at the end of the session. They provide, I suppose, an extra element to the workout and make it a little bit more interesting as well. But I wouldn't do any more than 6 or 8 of those, because beyond that, it becomes a little bit too intense. The last thing here, and I suppose some clubs would use this with Fit4Life groups, is that they use time trials on a fairly regular basis. Now, I suppose time trials are a double-edged sword in many ways, in that they're great when a group is just starting out. They help, I suppose, confirm to the athlete that they're making progress every couple of weeks, because if they're training consistently and they're turning up to training week in, week out, they're going to make progress in those first, the first couple of months, really, without doing anything spectacular in terms of anything complicated in training. Simply by turning up every week, they're going to be getting a little bit fitter. The time trial every 3 or 4 weeks is a nice way of getting the athlete to understand, you ran X time for 3K 4 weeks ago, and now you're running 30 seconds quicker, and it's a nice little confidence boost for them that they're actually improving. I suppose where time trials become a little bit less useful is if you've got a more advanced group. You're not going to see that progress every 3 or 4 weeks. So if you are using time trials on a fairly regular basis, it might be worth using different distances. So and very often when I'm working with groups, I like to try and change the distance of the time trial and use sort of odd distances. Well, it might be 1 kilometer or maybe 2 miles or something like that. That it's not your standard 5k or 10k that they would be used to doing in races, because again, there's that danger that it turns into a comparison every 3 or 4 weeks. They don't hit the benchmark or they don't PB, and they get a little bit discouraged by the whole thing. So they're to be used again depending on use sparingly, depending on the group that you're working with. But for a new group, they're actually a great way of I suppose getting the athlete to believe themselves that they're and seeing the fruits of their labour, that they're actually improving every couple of weeks. Right, the next part of this is just to focus. I suppose this is from the more of a coaching point of view rather than the technique of the session. And I think it's important that, you know, there's obviously, if we go through the different points of it here, is that each individual is welcome to the session and that they're encouraged as much as possible. And you've got to be encouraging to everybody within the group. And I think even more so to those athletes who are probably struggling a little bit, that they might need that little bit more encouragement. And I think after workouts, it's good just to hang around and see if people approach you to ask a couple of questions, because it can be amazing what 1 or 2 minutes of a little bit of encouragement or answering 1 or 2 questions can do to an athlete. They can make the difference between them getting a little bit of confidence and returning week and making, you know, as a leader, you're making yourself available to those athletes and answer the questions. I think, you know, for anybody that's on here, you've all been running, you know, a substantial period of time with that at this stage. Most of us know a lot more than we probably think we do. You know, when you've been involved in the sport for a couple of months, for a couple of years, you're constantly picking up different tips, different, you know, from conversations with other athletes, you're picking up different knowledge about training and different workouts. We often underappreciate how much knowledge we have and how much that can be of use to a new athlete. So hanging around for a couple of minutes at the end of the session and end of the training is great for helping to distill that knowledge, pass it on to the new athletes, and it can make the difference between them staying in the sport and not. So just to, I suppose we'll run through some sample sessions here. Again, this first workout, 30 seconds jog, 90 seconds walk, repeated 8 times. That will be a fairly standard week 1 couch to 5k type of a session, which will progress gradually over the 6 or 8 weeks. That will progress. I mean, I would get an athlete to do that 2 to 3 times in week 1. That might move on to 60 seconds jog, 90 seconds walk in week 2, and then on to 2 minutes run, 1 minute walk, and etc. as you move through the 6 or 8 weeks. For a slightly more advanced group, a sample session here would be 7 minutes of running, and you can intersperse that with 3 by 20 seconds fast within the run. So those 20-second fasts, what you're looking for here is, rather than an all-out sprint, is that you're looking for a change of gear, that they pick it up for 20 seconds, but they pick it up to a level of intensity that allows them to drop back down to their previous pace again. Okay, so let's say you're running at 5 minutes a K, and then for the 20 seconds that you pick it up to 4 minutes per kilometer, and then after the 20 seconds are over, you're back to 5 minutes a K again. What you don't want here is that you're getting a 20-second all-out sprint and that the athlete is going to have to go on their hands and knees for 30 seconds before they can start running again. You're looking for change of pace. It's just a surge in effort rather than looking for all-out intensity. And again, those 7-minute efforts, you could do 3 or 4 of those with a more advanced group. And then another way, obviously, the fartlek sessions that we spoke about earlier, that can be, you know, you could do 10 minutes and you can maybe do 2 or 3 sets of that 10 minutes, which might be used in trees, lampposts. You might do it in time, where you do minute fast, minute easy, or you're alternating the speed every 50 or 100 meters. Again, depending on what your training facilities are that you've actually got available to you. There's loads of different ways that you can slice and dice these sessions. But again, as I said to you earlier, I would try and change the workouts ever so slightly every week to try and keep that variation in it and keep that new stimulus every week. This is, I suppose, a sample of what an 8-week couch to 5k program might look like. Again, within this is, you know, left quite open because it depends on the standard of the athletes in the group in terms of what's appropriate of it as a training load. But generally speaking, your first week, you're trying to cover a mile, which is probably going to be about 15 minutes. And it's a combination of walking and jogging. So like I said earlier, that could be 30 seconds, 90 seconds of walking, 30 seconds of jogging in week 1, which progresses on in week 2 and 3. But that, I suppose, in the early weeks that you're looking to cover about a mile, then it comes on to about 1.5 miles. If you were to do that in time, you're probably talking about 20 minutes, maybe just over, and that gradually moves on to maybe 25 minutes of duration in the final weeks of the program. The majority of that, so if we took sample sessions in the second last week before an athlete does the 5K, it might be something like 2 by 10 minutes or 3 by 8 minutes with a 2-minute recovery in between. The other thing that you'll notice about this is that we've got a session on a Tuesday, we've got a session on the Thursday, and then at the weekend, I suppose there's an option here that the athletes can do, and they can repeat the session that they've done during the week, or it might be a case of doing a 30-minute brisk walk or 40 minutes, and that effectively would replace their long run, because you know, the more advanced athletes will be doing a long run at the weekend. Obviously, you can't get new Fit4Life athletes to be doing a long run at the weekend, so to replace that, you're getting them out to do a brisk walk at the weekend. You would find that if you were looking at heart rates of those athletes doing a brisk walk, if they're only starting out, their heart rate will probably be quite similar to a more advanced athlete doing a long run. So that's the sort of stimulus that you're looking for there. And the other thing you're trying to do is get across to them that to get continued progress, you're looking at probably getting three runs a week to make sustained progress over time. So that's what I suppose a sample week might look like. Again, it's worth sitting down in advance, planning all that out, and making sure that you're happy that you've got that progress over a couple of weeks. Injury prevention is paramount, and I suppose as leaders, this is probably one of the biggest responsibilities that you have, that you're given the appropriate training and that athletes are not getting injured. Injuries are inevitable from time to time for all athletes, no matter what level they're operating at. But if you've got a group that you're working with, and if you perceive that there's a large amount of injuries, particularly calf and Achilles, which tend to be the injuries that runners pick up most often, if you feel that there's a high ratio of injuries in the group, then maybe it's worth looking at the plan and at the training sessions and seeing maybe that it's a little bit too intense, or that the duration is a little bit too long, or that there's spikes in the training from one week to the next, and that your progression is a little bit too aggressive. So it's worth keeping an eye on that sort of general level of injury within the group, and see if you need to dial down the level of intensity or the volume or the progressions based on that. When it comes to reducing the risk of injury, training load is the main trigger. So I suppose the general consensus on this would be that about 70% or 75% of injuries are due to training load error, so that it's given the athlete too much in a short space of time and they're not able to adapt to it. So that might be a case of doing too much speed work. It might be a case of doing too much volume, so too many workouts in a week, or that those workouts are too long. But the training load is the most it's the biggest factor with the majority of injuries. So that's where I'm saying, if you've got athletes who are getting injured quite regularly, then the first thing you need to do is look at the training plan and see is that maybe that needs a little bit of changing. Second thing, if you're looking on an individual basis, is that previous injury history. If you're chatting to an athlete who's picked up an injury, have a quick chat with them and see if they've had that injury before. If it's a case that it's a recurrent injury that they've had before and it comes up 2 or 3 times while they're in your group, then they need to get some specific advice on that in terms of physiotherapist, and that they don't need, that you need to get them to employ expertise on that side to deal with that. The third thing is age, and this I suppose becomes important again when you're profiling your group and before the whole thing starts, is that you are given enough recovery in between the sessions, and if the age profile of the group is a little bit older, then the training needs to be less aggressive, so that you're accounting for the fact that your rate of recovery is a little bit slower as you get older. Muscle mass tends to reduce, so the training needs to be a little bit more conservative when that's involved. The other thing, and I suppose most of you will have come across this at some point, is your shoe choice and running surface tend to be 2 questions that pop up quite regularly. Is that what shoes should I be wearing? The science would tell us that if you go to a good running store, try on a couple of pairs of shoes and find the pair that's most comfortable, that's going to be appropriate for you. Generally speaking, comfort is the best gauge of what type of shoe you should be wearing. You can talk about underpronation, overpronation, and that can be, it can be a factor in it, but that tends to be overplayed a little bit. It's encouraging the runner to go to a good running store and try on shoes and find the most comfortable pair for them. That's the best way of gauging it. The other thing is, in terms of running surface, I would have a personal preference for staying off the road where possible. But the science would tell us that it really does make a huge difference. What surface that you're running on. You know, the training load, previous injury history tend to be much bigger factors than the actual surface. So if you are confined to the road, that shouldn't be an issue, and it shouldn't be a major factor in the injury rate within your group. But like I said, I think most coaches would probably have a personal preference to stay on grass or on a nice trail if that's available to you. But again, that's not always the case. The last thing is, I suppose, you're just trying to get across that while the training itself is important, there are other things that you need to take into consideration as an athlete. Is your sleep, that you're encouraging people to get 7 to 8 hours sleep at night. That's where you're going to get most of your gains and most of your recovery. And if you're not getting enough sleep, that can be a huge issue. Nutrition is also important. Probably you know, I suppose the general advice on that one would be, for most people, if you're just starting out, is that you're eating, I think cutting out junk food is probably the biggest issue for there, that you don't need to be too specific with the nutrition in terms of, you know, are you getting the right ratio of macros, of your fats, your proteins, your carbs. Hit the basics first, that there's no junk food involved in the diet, and then if I think for most people who are starting out on the Fit4Life program, that will cure most of their ails on the nutrition side. It might be worth, if you felt that was a topic within your group that needs addressing a little bit more, and that there's a lot of interest in it, it might be worth getting somebody in to speak to the group on that topic. Mobility and strength work, again, they're only if required. They are elements of training. As you get more advanced, they will be you know, bigger parts of your weekly training program. But again, if you're doing a little bit of mobility work and stretching in the warm down, that's ticking that box. And as I was saying earlier about the drills and the mini bands or the resistance bands, that's bringing a small little strength element into your warm up. And again, that kind of ticks that box as well. The last two things, again, for athletes, if they're you know, training at a reasonably high level, is massage on a regular basis, and then getting across that point that more sleep is the most important thing, and that's I suppose the easiest performance enhancer that we have available to us. Before I finish up here, 2 or 3 points I just wanted to get across is training at the correct intensity. Now, when you start off with a new group and they're couch to 5K, the training intensity is not really all that important, because those athletes will find that they've only really got one level of intensity. It's running or not running. But as the weeks go on, that becomes that changes, and you find that those athletes will I suppose develop a range of gears, if you want to put it that way. They'll be able to go at easy jogging pace, they'll be able to go at medium intensity, and they'll be able to go at high intensity. As in you're looking at, for 80% of your training intensity 80% of your training week takes place at a low intensity, okay, and only 20 or 25% of it at max is a medium to high intensity, so that when they're doing a lot of the runs, like I said earlier, getting the point across that they need to be doing it at conversational pace, and that's important as well. But that, you know, when the group moves on to 10K and beyond, 80% of their week is at as what you would describe as conversational pace, and only 20% of it is at high intensity. And other than that, just from, I suppose, from a coach's point of view, is if you go onto the Athletics Ireland page, you'll see loads of options and supports there in terms of how you can advance as a coach, so that you can help these groups as well. There's the coach education is absolutely fantastic. There's you know, a range of levels there, loads of information to be picked up if you want to, you know, advance yourself on the coaching ladder. And again, all of that information is on the Athletics Ireland page. I think that's it for me. Lilly-Ann, do you want to?
Perfect. I will now. 1 second now. Thank you, Emmett. So, just want to make sure everyone can see. And so, thank you, Emmett. Don't worry, Emmett's not going anywhere yet, guys. We'll have plenty of questions for him yet. But just to continue on from what Emmett was saying about what support is available to you, we're obviously very conscious that some of you might be just beginning your Fit4Life journeys. You might actually have a Fit4Life group within your club, and we don't want you to do this alone. We want to offer every bit of help that we can give you. So like you said, what we are very, very fortunate to have is some really, really qualified and experienced regional development officers all across the country who will be able to provide you with steps and kind of help you to support your kind of like group dynamics and what could work well and how you could advance your Fit for Life group within your own club. Our Fit for Life officers do have a number of Fit for Life diaries also that you could give as an incentive to some of your groups, but also we have some high vis jackets in stock, just the yellow ones. I know it's lovely. Well, I don't think you'd call it sunny, but it's bright at the moment. But soon enough, it's going to be dark, and we're all going to need to make sure that we're doing everything in a safe manner. So please contact your local regional development officer to avail of some of those supports. They will be able to point you in direction. Even as what Emmett was saying with our coach education, we do have some coaching courses available. One that might be of particular interest to any of you would be the endurance workshop in particularly. It's probably a little bit more advanced from what we're discussing here today, but it does discuss the main principles of endurance running. And if that is something that interests you, again, like I said, either contact myself or contact your regional development officer, and we'll be able to organise maybe something similar workshop like this online for you to tune into. And when you do the endurance workshop, normally in our kind of workshop settings, you do get a coaching manual upon completion of the course. It's actually written by Jack Daniels himself, not the good Jack Daniels, but the endurance Jack Daniels. And that's again a great kind of Bible of introduction to endurance running as well. And again, like we said, this presentation will be made available to you so that you can go back on it and everything like that. However, if you are trying to figure out training plans, etc., like Emmett said, you want to have a map out of the 8 weeks ahead of you. We have a lot that can be downloaded on our website. These are just some samples, like the Irish Life Health, the Mile Challenge, Grant Thornton, the 5K training plans, and also the additional resources from the I Am a Runner campaign, which I will discuss in a bit. So again, some of the best practices within our club. Like we said, this has been a very strong program that's been running for a number of years, and we have some really, really good Fit for Life leaders delivering this across the nation. So this is also an opportunity to learn what has worked well for clubs, but also maybe kind of an opportunity to touch base with some of these clubs if they're in a region close to you, and you could find out a little bit more about what they're doing and maybe how you could potentially collaborate going forward. So what's worked well? We suggest the 3 R's: recruitment, running, and retainment. So recruitment, how we actually get people in the door and how we keep them at the door and get them to the track. Because like as Grace said, the first barrier straight away is like just complete fear and intimidation of going down to a running group. Straight away, they think it's elite. So even just a simple factor like meeting the coach at the door to welcome the newbies, they can't escape. You know, if they meet the friendly face straight away, they mightn't be inclined to turn their back and run out the door. If you bring a friend, obviously it's a lot more motivating and encouraging to have someone there with you to be able to push you and actually just motivate each other to get to the session. Information evenings at local clubs, schools, community halls and centres. And our basics: leaflets, newsletters, newspapers, articles, PR on Facebook, and obviously strong word of mouth is always really helpful. For any of you who are interested in kind of maybe like how to make your kind of Fit for Life group like more presentable, attractive, you know, if you want like images and everything, a really good resource to use for clubs is a website called Canva. So Canva is free. You can make posters, PDFs, flyers, etc., and it can like make it look really, really good and really efficient and professional. So I would recommend that if you are advertising your club, that you could use something like that to make it that little bit more appealing to the wider community. And obviously what we were saying with running, that's why we're there, I suppose, but to make sure that it's really personal, that everyone feels included and that everyone like is completely involved and it's not just a one size fits all. So making it personal to their plans and making it specific to their goals. So just again, so between the coach and the participant, that there is some sort of management of expectations, what they're trying to achieve out of the program. Another good thing is just that everyone warms up together so that they do get to meet other people and everything like that. Again, a variety of routes and sessions can keep it interesting. Variety is the spice of life. Again, keep rewarding people for participation. You know, they're not there to go to the Olympics, they're there to be involved and to get healthy and to be a part of something. So again, really make sure that participation is the emphasis as well. A good idea would be to group by abilities. This might take a little bit more effort in using your coach's eye, but kind of dividing the groups into beginner, intermediate and advanced might help. The one thing that we would recommend is that just because you've sat in on this workshop today, we would recommend that you kind of get some sort of assistance with you. So either some other Fit4Life leaders that could help and manage the sessions a little bit easier for you, or identify people within the group that would have an interest in kind of giving a little bit more of a helping hand to make the sessions run that bit more smoothly. And obviously the opportunity to progress. Like Emmett said, sometimes some of the clubs, what they do is they have kind of run time trials, or they say, but again, it all comes and then they might move up the group. However, people might be comfortable in the group they are. They might have their friend there and they might just want to chat. So leave them off if they're happy. So again, it all comes down to that coach and participant athlete relationship. So again, it's that really building off that to do anything else. And then retainment is the big one. So focused and agreed goals, like we said, this is their journey as well. We also want to make sure that there's sociable events. So teas, coffee morning, clubhouse social events, variety of training venues with occasion afterwards. So make it fun. You know, even when you were a kid and you got involved with, say, community games, for example, that the only reason you got involved was so that you could go to Mosney or go to Butlins. So again, like, let there be a fun kind of thing that everyone can socialize with after. And again, like I said, participants can share their input. So this can be either in social side of things or actually the actual training itself. And then obviously you can also add specific development meetings to the training. So rather than just having your same training sessions every Tuesday, you could add to that upon completion of maybe like the 6 or 8 week Fit4Life program, with having a nutrition, recovery, fueling strategy workshops, etc. We have a load of people that would be able to deliver some workshops. So if that was something that you're interested in, we could maybe set something up or point you in the direction to do that. But again, it just keeps the interest there, and again, there's longevity to the program, that it doesn't just finish after 8 weeks, that people might stay on and continue their journey either within a club as a senior member or just continue with Fit4Life, you know, which will be great. So it's all about sustainability and longevity within the club. So again, these are just, like I said, some sample stories that have worked really well from local Fit4Life groups across the country. GCH is probably one of the very first athletic clubs to kind of really roll out Fit4Life, and to be honest, they've been pivotal with running in Galway. I don't think there is probably a person in Galway who hasn't came through the hands of Bernie Kelly, because she has really put so much effort into the programs, and what she has done as well is added on to the existing program. So rather than it just being Fit4Life, she has Fit4Track and Fit4Trail. So again, giving people the opportunity to test themselves, challenge themselves, do a bit more track work and speed sessions, and just alternate it and just make it a little bit more fun and have that variety there. Another example would be St. Brendan's in Ardfert down in Kerry, which is done by Ursula Barrett. A lovely idea is, like, you know, Thursday toning. They add kind of general strength conditioning circuits to obviously support and like the training that's already been done, because as Emmett said, injury prevention is a huge thing and people mightn't have run in a very long time. So maybe just getting back to basics and getting those fundamentals reestablished would really add and contribute to the overall success of the program. Another lovely one is Goran AC, should I say, Mums and Daughters Couch to 5K. So again, it's not just a one size fits all. You can make this to whatever you feel. Goran have made a really good idea of just kind of trying to tap into the families, and they've offered like free training plans, expert advice and top tips. Again, some similar program down in Limerick on Brew. They have lads and dads nights, and it's a bit of crack as well. So they do a bit of training all together, and then they might just go off for a bite to eat, a few fizzy drinks and a couple of crisps, and how bad for a Friday night. So if you're looking to figure out how we actually get started, these are a few ideas. So what you'll actually do is hopefully recruit your members. You know, like we said, this can be done going to your local like a local community. For example, down in Bear, Castletown Bear, in Cork, lovely little spot. Natalie Treacher and Mark Gallagher were involved there in getting a Fit4Life group up and running there and a club. And what they did was literally just went into their local supermarket and like advertised it there and had sign-ups to let people know that it was something that was going on, and they generated some huge attention for the club straight away. Obviously, you can also contact your local RDO, which can help you with everything, with workshops, with coaching courses, etc. And then obviously register your members with AAI. So that's a huge thing, just to protect you as a coach and a leader, but also to protect obviously the integrity of the club and ensure that everyone there is safe, because obviously safety must be our priority. So again, just getting them to register with your club or your new Fit4Life group, which would be great. And then off you go, you start training. So again, these are just some samples of like what has been working well. So GCH, they were celebrating 10 years, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, and they just kind of had an information leaflet about what was going on, the impact on the community, how people felt, you know, and everything, and it was, you know, scattered across all of Galway. What is actual Fit4Life, if you need to let your community know what it is, there is a video on our YouTube channel which you can share. Again, social media is where it's at, especially if you're trying to get strong messages across and like kind of, you know, connect with the community. This is Duneen Athletic Club. You know, whenever they have a good session or a session going on, they take a nice pretty picture of it and it looks really good. Same with Ross Carberry Steam Runners. They show all the beautiful scenery, places that they be walking with nature and everything. But what they've done well is that they have like a walking group, and then they also have like a jogging group. As we said, that we wanted to be kind of participation focused. You can see here that Luke and Harriers just completed their Couch to 5K, yes, in challenging circumstances due to COVID-19. However, they were all able to receive their Couch to 5K certificates upon completion, which was brilliant again. And again, they're happy. And it's all about visibility and like seeing it online and everything that you might actually go down. In terms of visibility, it's really important to be tactical about your venues and destinations of where you're going to go, because if people sometimes if they see a track, they might find it a little bit daunting. They might think it's too elite, but having it in a visible place that people would actually be like, geez, I wonder what group they are, and that get them questioning, you know, get your tops, get your club tops, make sure that you're really visible to what you're doing, and people might be more inclined to get down. St. Albans is really good, again by Adrian Kelly. They would be lost without her there, and they've done some really, really good virtual races to kind of keep the momentum going for some of their members and the community again, which was fantastic. So again, these are just some samples of what has worked well. So again, if you're kind of new to running or kind of go off, our new campaign is I Am a Runner campaign, which celebrates every ability, fitness level, and just into, again, it's all about participating. That's what it is. It's not performance focused, participation based, and we want to just celebrate everyone's journey of athletics. So if you want to contribute to that, and if you have stories that you feel would be relevant and appropriate and deserve to be shared, please share them with ourselves, and we'd be delighted to get them up, because running has saved a lot of people's mental health during COVID-19, and we really, really want to ensure that we can continue that community and have that safe space for people to just breathe and get out. So again, it's just an initiative to celebrate everyone's unique story, and it's going to be a platform for people to like connect, etc. So the main thing we want to say with Fit4Life is that this is just kind of sums it all up. They came for the challenge, but they stayed for the crack. So as Fit4Life leaders, we really want to make sure that that is what you will be kind of hopefully instilling within your clubs and groups. So to wrap up, I know you're probably not going to want to hear too much from myself, but you probably will have a lot of questions for Emmett. So what I'm actually going to do, Emmett, I'm just going to pose some of the questions to you, if that's okay. If anybody needs to nip off, that's absolutely no problem. And like I said, we will share this presentation and the workshop and everything like that with everyone going forward. So I will see. So if anybody has any questions that they want to ask, please type them into the chat box there, and we will be able to just answer a few. So if I have a look here.
I think we got one there from, was it Sean Flaherty? He was just mentioning that he had I just get it up here. Yeah, so that he had been running 5 times a week until a couple of months ago, got an injury, and he's back to square one after 5 weeks off. Unfortunately, that's one of the downsides of running, and it's particularly endurance sport, is that the fitness disappears quite quickly. I suppose as a benchmark, what you're looking at is the first week to 10 days, you don't lose a huge amount. Beyond 2 weeks, you tend to lose quite a substantial amount of fitness. And I would say if you've been out more than 3 weeks, then you need to treat your return to running as if you were starting from scratch again. And it's got to be very low level of intensity, much lower volume of training than you would have been doing prior to the injury. And unfortunately, that takes a couple of weeks to build back up again. But it's rather than trying to jump back in where you were, you've got to accept that you've taken a step back in your fitness, and accept that that's the new norm for you. The other thing to keep in mind, if you do get an injury, or if the groups that you're working with are getting injured, try and encourage them to do a little bit of cross training if you can. So it's particularly if it's a short-term injury, if it's 1 to 2 weeks, but if they can't run, then maybe they can do a little bit of biking, they can do a little bit of swimming, something to maintain that aerobic fitness, and it will make their return to full fitness and the return to running an awful lot easier and a lot faster when they do actually get back when the injury clears up.
Perfect. Thank you, Emmett. Practical advice there. Just one kind of from the this is a club perspective. Does this have to be done? This is from Magella. Does this have to be done through an Athletics Ireland club? We're over an hour's drive from GCH Fit4Life and have started our own running group ourselves. Magella, that's absolutely no problem. We'd actually love to see that you have set up a group. We would just love to make sure that you are registered with ourselves, like you can set yourselves up as a new club, just so that you're all protected by insurance, etc. Because obviously want to make sure that everyone's safety is the priority. So if you touch base with your local regional development officer, that would be great. Another really good incentive for our Fit4Life groups is that there is 3 coaching spaces that are free to those who are setting up a new Fit4Life club for a coaching course, for an endurance course, etc. So if that is something that is interesting to you, please contact your local regional development officer to organise that, because we want to make sure that everyone gets looked after. I'm just having a look here. People, another great story from Kells AC. They started with 6 people this time last year, and they now have 60 members, growing, and the majority of members started with no running experience. So that's absolutely brilliant, and again, just to show the impact that the program can have on the club, and no doubt it's going to go from strength to strength over the next few years. Peter, where is the list of local Fit4Life clubs available? We have these, Peter, on our website, and if I can send them on to yourselves after, but also if your club is not registered on a Fit4Life, please contact myself or contact your regional development officers, and we can update that list, because there are some groups that are going around that we're not completely aware of. So please,
Lilly-Ann,
yeah,
I've just put on the link for the free diary that's got a list of all the Fit4Life groups on it.
Yeah, thanks, Bashir. No, what we'll make sure is as well is that we have it, the new ones that are popping up that do come back into the list, just so that we're all aware of it. So Bashir is one of our regional development officers for the Athlone area. So again, like that, if there's any of the kind of Midland clubs here who are looking, that's the man now you need to go annoy. Again, a great endurance athlete himself, so no doubt he'll be able to help you with a few tricks as well. We just got some great feedback, Emmett. People are very happy with the lots of content and everything like that. Is there a course for leaders to complete? Yes, you can. This is basically the introduction to a Fit4Life leadership workshop, but also we would recommend that you go on and do the endurance workshop also after. Let me have a look here. So just in relation to AAI annual club membership charges, we can set this up yourself with you. Again, like I said, if you just contact your local regional development officer or just message me after, I can point you in direction just so that you can show you how to establish setting up that group, because like we said, we just want everyone to be safe. Magella was just saying that she got some great advice before from Bernie Kelly, and we will make sure that we send a lot of resources through to yourselves upon completion of this workshop. Bashir has attached the free Fit4Life diary, and we can actually, that's the PDF version, but we can also give you a physical diary from our regional development officers if that is something that is interest to you. We have lots of videos on our YouTube channel, which I can share as well when I'm sending through the email after. And I think that is it. I think overall people might have a few questions that might pop up over the next few weeks, but if anybody has, like I said, any more questions or queries, please contact your local regional officer, contact myself whatever region you're in, and if you have a new group, we'd love to hear about them and we will publicize it. If anybody has kind of any stories that they want to share from what's going on within their Fit4Life group, please tag us, let us know, because we'd love to give you the publicity and attention that you deserve for all your hard work that you've contributed to in helping a lot of people along the way. So we do want to say thank you, a huge thank you for that. We'll send through loads of bits and pieces, like I said, but most importantly, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of your new groups popping up across the country, and best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Lilly-Ann.
No problem. Thank you, Emmett, and thank you, Grace, and thank you, Bashir, and all the regional officers that have tuned in tonight. Hopefully we'll have a few people in ONE over the next few weeks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thanks, folks. Take care.